If this whole music video would be in black and white and added with some documentary film effects, then propaganda of the Third Reich is nothing in comparison to that. Let's ask Yuri Felshtinsky, Doctor of History and Philosophy. Let's ask him what he thinks about it. Yuri, hello. Happy to see you. Thank you. I'm afraid that neither philosophy nor history has anything to do with it. What about psychiatry? Well, psychiatry probably is going to be a good fit for that. Yes, probably psychiatry. But I thought it wasn't quite clear why all these people are not mobilized as part of the mobilization law dated 21st of September. Those young men, pretty strong, not quite clear why they're singing and hugging, why they're not on the front line. Well, but you see, somebody has to be among the extras cheering people up. Otherwise, if everybody is sent to the front, then who is going to be creating this illusion of people's unity? And of course, it's actually a question where this singer was making her video. Yuri, could you please tell us, what do you think about these attempts to legitimize this private military company? And it's just like those Iranian drones. They do exist, and everybody knows that Prigozhin and the private military company executes any military missions for Putin in any spot of the world. So why is that? And now they sing songs about him. Well, you see, it's hard to understand for us because we are used to certain norms. Norms of behavior, standards of political conduct. We know that political leaders have the right to say certain things and not to say other things if even they think differently. There are certain standards, principles. There is nothing like that in Russia. There are no laws in Russia. There are no even criminal rules in Russia that anybody would follow. It's just a total chaos. Who is Prigozhin? He's nobody. He's really nobody. He's either Putin's chef or he murders people for Putin. But in all cases, he's nobody. From the official point of view, he's nobody. He doesn't have any status. He doesn't have a right to go to a prison and recruit a prisoner, let alone to recruit thousands of prisoners. He doesn't have the right to organize private military companies. These companies can be organized only by Federal Security Service or Ministry of Defense, but not Prigozhin. Who is Kadyrov, who makes declarations about Russian policies? He is nobody. He is just a leader of his region. It's a special region. He's a special leader there. Everybody understands that, but all his power, according to common sense, should be limited with that particular region where he is a leader or ruler or dictator. Putin created such conditions in Russia under which laws do not exist. Any laws, any rules, any traditions, anything don't exist. And in this sense, everything is kind of destroyed. Before, things were quite unstable, because Russia is not the most law-obedient country. It is not one of those countries where laws dominate over everything. Russia is not. But Putin destroyed even little things in Russia. That's why it's total chaos, it's total disorder. One officials They issue decrees on mobilization. Others keep borders open and people flee the country. But if even it's a bad government, this government would not make such conditions. Because if there are certain objectives of mobilization, say in Israel, there are objectives of mobilization in different historical times. But it doesn't mean that all the mobilized have the right on the same date flee the country. It actually means that the mobilized, they don't have the right to leave the country. It's either mobilization or the freedom of traveling. In Russia, we have constant chaos, disorder, lawlessness. Sadly, that's the given in Russia. You say destruction. We also see the destruction of this macho man, of this strong leader, the man who used to scare some of the serious players on the global arena. So now this image is being destroyed. Maybe there was no this Iron Man that everybody was so afraid of. What is your opinion on that? Is Putin subject to the influence of his consultants, ideologists, for example, such people like Dugin, or Prigozhin, or Patrushev? How do these people affect Putin? Could they be those voices that pushed Putin on the 24th of February to declare a special military operation? So how dependent or independent Putin is, surrounded by such consultants? Well, invasion of Crimea in 2014 and invasion to Ukraine in 2022, decisions to do that were made by voting. There are 5 people who made this decision, who voted for this decision. We know their names. Putin, as a great statesman, I never took him for it. From the first day, when just accidentally I was one of the first people who found out that they're going to make the next president out of Putin, and I think it was March of 1999. In some sense, he's nobody. In some sense, he's just a representative of Federal Security Service that is now ruling the country, and that used to be, it is right now. There were those 5 people, and this group includes Shoigu as Minister of Defense, and Bortnikov, Director of Federal Security Service, and Patrushev, and the representatives of General Staff. Those people made a decision to invade. There are no secrets who made the decision to invade Ukraine. We know these names. There is nothing great about Putin. Never was and never will be. He cannot create anything. Destruction. Well, see, if we find the most awful enemy of Russia, and we tell this enemy to damage Russia as much as possible. So Putin managed to do that through the war in Ukraine in February of 2022. He damaged Russia so much that Russia will never recover from this damage. I would say next 100 years. During our lifetime, Russia will never be able to recover from this punch. And this is what Putin did. The title for your stream is nice when you call it "What did Putin destroy?" Everything. Everything that hasn't been destroyed since Stalin's time, he destroyed. Stalin back then, he joined the Allies and became one of the winners in World War II, and he ascribed the victory over Nazis to himself. Nevertheless, from 1939 to 1941, he was helping the Nazis, but somehow Stalin managed to steer the situation in such a way that something good could be told about the Soviet Union, that the Soviet Union participated in destroying Germany. But Putin managed to erase even this memory. That's why there is only negativity. There is this bold minus sign, and it will be always reminded to Russia. He made Russia a goddamned country. And frankly, there is nothing else to say about it. You can't find a bad enough definition to define what Russia and Putin are today. And of course, he still has potential to increase tension, say, by using nuclear weapons. But he actually put Russia in such a dead end that sadly there is nothing to say. Another example, actually, they were talking about Odessa. It's an international city, and they said, let's not call it Russian or Ukrainian. And now we've heard that they submitted a petition to the municipal authorities of Odessa, and the petition is to destroy all monuments to the founders of Odessa from Russia. One of them was to Catherine the Great. Question to you. March of 17th of 2024. This is a date that they plan to have presidential elections on. Do you think Putin will last to this date, politically and physically? I won't be surprised if he actually lost. Because right now it is a positional warfare. It continues for 8 months, and we ask ourselves, may it go another 8 months? And probably will answer yes. Maybe another 8 months. I would say we shouldn't be looking at the situation in terms of weeks or months or year. Yuri, here a question is, do you see any configuration or a window of opportunity for Putin to make for another presidential term, and what would be such conditions? Well, actually, he might make for another presidential term because in Russia they don't have elections. Putin does not answer to Russian voters. They're playing this game kind of within their own group. Like they vote for themselves, and they always have 98% support from the voters. So I think he will make it just as long as he lives. But frankly, it doesn't mean anything, and Putin doesn't mean anything. In comparing to others, I don't think that Putin really means anything to Russia and to what's happening in Russia. When he came in power as the representative of the Federal Security Service, he remains this representative. And of course, over these 20 years, he got more mature, he is more seasoned, but he's first among the peers. He is not a dictator, he is not Lukashenko or Gaddafi. He might end up like Gaddafi or Ceausescu, leader of Romania. But sadly, he is not literally a dictator. If he was a dictator, it could be much simpler. We could just remove Putin and all problems would end. It's not like that. I don't know how long he'll stay in power. He will live or not, I don't know. But the thing is that the problems with Russia will not end with Putin's ending. But what exactly you're saying? That there is no any system under Putin. There is kind of this collective subconsciousness that will find a new leader. No. The whole thing is pretty conscious. Let me tell you this. From time to time, I read articles of some analysts, some serious analysts, smart people. And if in the article I don't see FSB word or Federal Security Service, I know exactly that the author of the article knows nothing about what's happening in Russia. No idea. Because power in Russia is taken over by Federal Security Service as an institution. And this is the biggest problem for us. Our problem is not that some guy, Putin, took over power in Russia. If it was so, then Putin would be removed long ago, and we wouldn't have any problems. But the problem is that the power is taken by the Federal Security Service. And until we find a solution for the problem, we will never find a way out from this situation where Russia put us. Because Russia as a state has a long-term, serious program. And it's not just to destroy Ukraine, it's just the first phase. It kind of happened like this, it started with Ukraine, but before that it was Belarus. It was done quite quietly, without any significant protests from the Belarus government and even Belarus people that were protesting, not from the Russian Federation. They were protesting about their own government, yet the protest was counteracted by the Russian Guard. But now we're talking about the Third World War. We're talking about a possible open confrontation, not a hidden one, but a confrontation between Russia and NATO. And I think all of it is ahead of us, sadly to all of us. And from time to time we can hear that from American officers, those officers who retired, because those who did not retire, they don't have the right to talk. But those who retired, they can say such things. They say that Ukraine is just a beginning, that things are still ahead of us. General Sanders, Commander-in-Chief of British forces, he said that everything serious will begin in 2 years. In other words, our problem is much more global than just Putin. Our problem is Russian state. Such problems were before. There was a problem with Germany during World War II. There was a problem with Japan. We will solve this problem, but that's a global problem. Is it possible the turn of events will be such that the problem will be solved by those whom the Kremlin considers as pawns, whom they mobilize as their soldiers, and at some point when these people don't receive money for the war anymore, when their families receive those coffins with their bodies, the tension in the society will be so high that these mobilized guys with guns They'll turn around and they will point at their recruiters at Kremlin, and they will make a coup. Well, this is a positive scenario, but frankly, I would not count on it. You might remember, or might not, since you're younger than I am, Lenin used to say that it's going to be a transformation of imperialistic war into civil war. I don't think this scenario is our scenario, because Putin doesn't care about how many thousands of people die in the Russo-Ukrainian war. He doesn't care. In some sense, for him, it's the more people die, the greater the victory for him will be. And there are some historical roots in that. The Soviet Union, in all its wars, they lost more people than all other countries, including Nazi Germany during World War II. And the more the Soviet Union loses in wars, the greater it feels its victory. And one of the key arguments of the Soviet government was that the Soviet Union played the most significant role in Second World War, of course adjusted to the fact that the Soviet Union was on Germany's side from 1939 to 1941. The role was significant because the Soviet Union lost more than any other state. That's why for Putin, more Russians die in this war, the better for him. And remember how in his Valdai Forum speech, he told us that it takes them 5 days to train a soldier. Sometimes it's 5 days, sometimes it's 7 days. But since 1978, I live in the West. There is no a leader in the West that would keep his post if they say anything like that about soldiers of their country, that the soldiers are sent to the front line after 5 days of training. It's just impossible to imagine. But in Russia, people just take it with no problem, and then they sing songs like the one we just watched about this private military company. It's a different mentality, it's a different world, it's a different country. In Russia, mothers, they send their sons to front, and they say, you will die for the motherland in the battle with the enemy. And the enemy are Ukrainians. And here, I recall that despite the fact that the encounter with the Nazi regime in Ukraine was not an inevitability. This is what he said. Yuri, let's make a comma here. And let's see each other in other streams. So we have a lot to discuss. Our time is up, though. And thank you very much for finding time to talk to us. Thank you very much.